Welcome to notebook number 3, selecting subsets of data from data frames with iloc. So the iloc indexer selects subsets of data only by integer location. It's very similar to loc, but uses integers instead of labels. So if you understood loc, then you should understand iloc. All right, so it's able to do the same thing, simultaneous row and column subset selection. And the syntax will look like this: df.iloc, then you have your row selection and your column selection. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. Let's read in that same sample data frame, putting the name column into the index. So what exactly is integer location? So each row and each column, in addition to the label that you see, can also be referenced via integer location. So the integer location is pretty simple. It just starts at 0 as the first one and then goes down. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So Penelope here can be referenced by integer location 3. State over here can be referenced by integer location 0. So just like with loc, there are possible types of selections for iloc. Like, what could the rows and columns be? Well, they can be a single integer, a list of integers, or a slice of integers. iloc doesn't actually accept a Boolean series like loc does, so that's one small difference. Let's go ahead and see some of these examples. So we'll select some subset of rows and columns. So let's say the rows we'll select integer location 2 and 4 and 0. They don't have to be in order. And for the columns, we'll select, let's say, just 5 and 1 like this. And then all we have to do is do df.iloc, use the square brackets, pass in our row selection and our column selection, and then get the result. So we got integer location 2, 4, and 0. That's 2 over here. 4 is Dean, Jane is 0. And then score and color, that's 5 is actually the last one, and color over here like this. Okay, great. So both of these are rows. With iloc, you can actually use negative numbers. So let's say we want to do -2. So this is the second column from the end. So height, and say +2. So this will be food, like that. We could get the last row over here, which should be Cornelia. So this is just another combination. We're using 2 lists, and also it accepts negative integers. So let's take a look at one with slice notation. So instead of calls, and I'll just comment that out for a second, we'll say I want to slice from the second integer location up to the 5th. And now when you do slice notation with iloc, it is exclusive of the last one. So this functions similarly as the slice location for your standard lists in Python. So it excludes the last one. It gets integer locations 2, 3, and 4, but it excludes 5. So with loc, it does include the last one. So that is a small difference. They both can be labels here. So we can go from the beginning up to label 3 like that. So get the first 3 rows and then these columns. You can, of course, add a step size. So here we can do a step size like that. That's great. Let's select a single value. So just like with loc, if you just use 2 integers, say 2 and -1, it'll get, okay, so this is Aaron is the second, -1 is score, so it should return 9. And that's what it does. It returns that scalar value. And let's look at, let's say we select the second or integer location 2, but use a list over here. So we'll just say 0 and 4. And so this selects for Aaron, state and height like that. And it returns a series because we're only selecting a single row over here. Again, that's a little confusing. It might be easier to convert this to a list and return a data frame so that you can keep the same orientation. All right, so I think that covers most of the combinations with iloc. Rows and calls can be any of these 3, and they're all valid. Okay, so a quick summary with iloc. It's analogous to loc, but it only uses integer location. One thing to note is that in the Pandas documentation, it does use the word position. So you'll see that I like to use the term integer location. It's just more verbose and just more specific. Here is the generic syntax. It selects rows and columns simultaneously, rows, comma, calls. And we talked about this. These are the three possibilities that you can pass to rows or calls. It can either be a single integer, a list of integers, or a slice of integers, and then make sure you add a comma between the row and column selection.